Okay, so continuing the conversation with Fabio Palvelli, 3D artist, NFT enthusiast, and uh, Nutella lover. Okay, so let's talk about your art, Fabio. What inspires and drives Fabio Palvelli, the digital NFT artist? You've been doing archviz for and product visualization as well as some consulting and 3D community events. And what was the first artistic area that you wanted to explore in your NFTs journey?
To be honest with you, there is always been this thing of me creating super colorful things. I love colors. I'm really a color addict. Have you ever been to the D2?
Not, yeah, I haven't been.
Anyway, if you
But
are there, and you get to see me in person, this is also how I go around. Often I joke about it also with my wife because like I wear maybe a red t-shirt with green pants. I love colors, and so I've always tried to put this into my art. I've always done art since I was a little kid. When the NFTs came out, I went back to my hard drive and I found a lot of things that I've made over the years, and things have changed over time. Uh, I just like to make beautiful things, and oftentimes what happens is that I only have like 10 minutes during the day. And so I need to create something because I try to post at least once a day. I've done this for over a year. I tried also in the past to do it for a little bit longer of a time, but I failed. But basically, the idea was always to try and create something uh, pretty. I might consider it pretty. Some people might look at it and say it's total bullshit, it's total crap. That's okay. I do it just as a way to create something. Creativity really brings me joy. When I do have something to share and show, even if it's not perfect, it makes me feel good. And so I put it out there for people to enjoy it. Uh, if people get inspired, then great, fantastic, it makes me happy. If they don't, hey, look, I'm not trying to be somebody who I'm not. Uh, would I like to make better things? Of course, absolutely. Right now, thank God, I'm very busy with like commercial work, and so I'm getting to spend everyday time doing things for clients. But there were times where the tasks that I had to do were incredibly boring, and so having a creative outlet where I could make something every single day would sort of like bring me back that joy of creating, right? And I think that as an artist, you owe it to yourself because otherwise, you can get sad doing the job that you once loved. And I do think that you can engineer, so to say, love towards your job if you know how to control your emotions and if you do, make the effort every single day to create something.
yeah, that's like finding your probably your way that the way that works for you, like with creation. Like I want to talk about this because I've heard in one of your interviews on another podcast that you said this was like a 1 year bet with yourself, like doing this daily arts. It's like the Beeple case, right? He's doing the dailies for so many years, and it kind of works for him. And I've always wondered about that because I've been doing some projects with like monthly challenges, such as this 36 days of type or Inktober, just to make myself like dive into a particular area of art that I love to make, and it kind of worked sometimes, but sometimes you just fall into this trap of just doing that for the sake of doing the art every day, and not every type of art can be done that way. Like, of course, this is a
Yes.
specific approach, and it can kind of has specific results that are possible in that area. But some projects just need longer time span to mature, to dive into different aspects of the creation. So I wanted to ask you how does it work for you, like this daily approach? Don't you get
Everything that
tired
you
of?
said everything that you said resonates with me 100%. Um, like there are times where I'm doing the stuff and I'm hating it doing it, because I'm like, I could spend a little bit more time and do something even better or a lot more creative. Uh, but however, in my situation, it's a little bit particular because of the career that I've had. I come from archviz, and then I found myself becoming a consultant. I worked for the guys at V-Ray. I worked for the guys at V-Ray for Cinema 4D before it was bought by Chaos Group. I worked for different software developer companies, content creation companies. I've had sort of like different clients. And so, at a certain point as an artist, I was a little bit confused because I did not know in which direction to go. I do feel like artistically I'm still there a little bit. Like I do know what I like, but I often have to fight with myself to sort of like say, okay, Fabio, this is who you are. And I also despise labels at the same time. And so I do not want to put a name on me and say, Fabio, this is the type of artist that you are. No, I use this daily just to say, you know what? Fuck it. Today I'm going to do something. If it comes out good, it'll be good. Often it's not good. Often it's terrible. And I invite everybody to, go and see my Instagram. No shame in it. Some art is really crap. It really is. But again, I'm not doing it to please anybody. I'm just doing it because I'm like, what can I do in a day, 1 hour, sometimes, even 3 hours, sometimes 10 minutes? What can I do? Can I create beauty out of nothing? And the answer is, yeah, kind of.
Or sometimes,
But
right?
it's okay, it's I do stuff and it's good. It's okay.
Yeah, I guess this also maybe comes down to allowing yourself, like you said, allowing yourself to be yeah, to just fail, right? That's what I love particularly about drawing with ink, which I practice myself.
You're very talented, man.
This is like the cool thing about watercolors and ink is that you put the paint or the ink on the paper and it's just there. You can't erase it. There's no undo, right? So you got to just go with the flow. And if you don't hit that that line that you wanted, okay, you just have to learn to accept it, right? And that's kind of nice way, because I've as artists, I think we are often blocked by this perfectionist approach that it has to be this top notch, your best artwork ever, right? Whenever you try to create something new, but then, well, sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't, right? So it's yeah,
Most time it won't.
yeah, exactly. But in order to finally reach that that peak, you have to go through the valleys and different ups and downs, right, during the process. I wanted to also ask you about the because you've quite a high variety of things that you're experimenting with like some artworks that are kind of like storytelling, more realistic, or let's call it surreal, or mixing your archviz background with different stuff. And some are like purely abstract, like just shapes, colors. As you said, you love colors. Like I wanted to ask which one, like which side is closer to your heart, like total abstraction or like building some stories in art.
The story part. I love telling stories. Like even with the videos that I was doing on YouTube, they were basically stories all the time. Um, if I had a lot more time and also like the chance to go back and practice a little bit, uh, sculpting, things like that, I would most likely go and work more on characters, that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean that I'm not gonna do it in the next future. But as of now, the stuff that I'm doing for my clients are also like animations, things that usually do tell a story. But I also get a lot of pleasure out of making abstract geometrical work. One of my most favorite artists is Peter Tarka. You probably know him. He does all these abstracts, and they seem very easy, but they're actually so difficult because like there must you need to have a certain mastery in managing very simple basic shapes. uh, Color palettes are very difficult to be used in conjunction with like basic shapes. And I think that this is where the genius of that guy is that it makes it look like it's very simple, but it's not. And I guarantee you, try to take one of his artworks and reproduce it. In the act of reproducing it, you're going to question whether or not what you're doing makes any sort of sense, because like I think he has achieved perfection in everything that he does. And try to copying him and emulate him, it will really show you how difficult it is to create beautifully pleasing aesthetics.
Yeah, I found myself, also studying and copying artists. Like I was digging more into traditional art, artists like old masters like Rembrandt and people like that. But yeah, it kind of gives you the idea of why things are looking nice and what it is that makes them, like trying to break down these kind of artworks, and then you realize how much you might miss in your artworks as well. I think it's a great idea for artists, right? And abstract as well. It's like people sometimes joke about art that is abstract, that is maybe because of the manifesto artworks that were in the beginning of the art that movement, like Kazimir Malevich, like the white square on white background and images like that. They were kind of like manifesto images, but yeah, people sometimes think that you just put a bunch of
you,
shapes and
you'll find a lot of affinity. You'll find a lot of affinity, for instance, with the work of Pak. You know Pak, the NFT artist.
No, not. I haven't seen
him,
but I'll gladly know something new.
If you compare his work to the one of the painter that you just mentioned, I forgot the name now. You see, that's the Malevich. Yes, sorry. This is my seniority kicking in. You'll find a lot of like affinity.
Right. So talking about the other artists, like maybe masters from the past, I wanted to ask you about collaborations, which is kind of like a thing in the NFT world, but in art in general, right? So collaborations with other artists. Are you doing this kind of projects already, or maybe you wish?
Actually, and that's the beautiful thing, is that now I'm collaborating on commercial works with some of the artists that I've always looked up to. And so, now we're completing a work with the guys from Alt Shift. Do you know the company?
I've heard the name, but just something's resonating.
They're based in Germany. Patrick Fogel is the founder. A really good friend of mine. But now we're actually working on a project together. We're having so much fun. I worked on projects together with Lemni Perez. She's a famous NFT artist in the NFT space. We're still working together. I did a project with Francesco Schito, great Italian artist. We haven't released the project yet. I'm getting myself busy, I'm using this as a chance to sort of like have a dialogue with other artists to see if there is anything that I can learn. And the answer is yes, there is a lot of things that I can learn.
So if there was someone that you're not yet collaborating with, but maybe let's limit that to living artists right now. Would there be some kind of like a dream collaboration of yours that you would love
There
to
are
have?
quite a few artists that I would like to collaborate with. Yambo being one of them, Nicillo another one. There is Amin Farah, great artist, the Black Lab Studio. Peter Tarka would be another one. Benoit Chalan, it's an artist from France, great work that he does. There are many offices that I would like to collaborate with, but of course, it's not as simple as to say let's collaborate. There must be an affinity also in terms of styles. I look up to those people. I do not expect them to call me tomorrow after they watch the interview. But it's okay. I do understand that we're on different journeys, and maybe one day there will be a company that will come to me and say, "We love what you do. Let's work together."
Yeah, hopefully. So, is there like a clear direction, like a goal that you set for your art? Whether this would be artistic goal, philosophical, I don't know, or a business goal that you're setting yourself for, like in the NFT space, or are you just right now going with the flow and see what happens and enjoying the ride?
I've decided to continue making art despite the NFT world. To me, the NFT world is irrelevant. Meaning, of course, it's there and we're paying attention, but I make art for myself. That's it. I'm going to continue doing it no matter what, hopefully for a very long time. It doesn't matter. If I fail at NFTs and nobody decides to buy my art, what can I say? I did my best. I tried really my best. But I need to keep making art for myself. That's the thing.
Okay. So let's maybe switch a topic a little bit, because correct me if I'm wrong, but around 2 years ago, you've switched to Blender from using Cinema 4D.
No, a year ago.
A year ago. Oh, so it's time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is due to the pandemic that everything seems like longer
seems
time
faster.
ago. So,
no, I think I did my first, like, that I modeled and everything, November 2020. So yeah, it's close to 2 years. You're right. Sorry, my apology.
Okay, but the full switch probably happened later, right? Just after the first experience. It's like I remember my first encounter with Blender. It was like, yeah, it was hard. But I'm like an old veteran of Blender. I was using it.
But I'm lucky because I already came with the new interface,
Yeah. I started with this old one with the buttons down below, like 2.40 something. I don't remember even the exact version, but 2.4 or something. So, what was the reason behind that decision, and what was your impression of Blender?
So the reason was that as long as I was working for the guys at Chaos, and before, at the office where I was working before in Vienna, I was getting the free license of Cinema 4D, and I loved it. I was actually doing a lot of archviz work with Cinema 4D, which is, like for many people still very weird because you think of 3ds Max when you think of archviz, right? But it was a great tool. It still is a great tool, and I think it's a fantastic tool to use. But I did not want to spend money for a license. I never did have to spend money. I'm a Rhino instructor, and I work for a company that makes me do still trainings for companies. And so I never had to pay for the Rhino license either. So, I never had to pay for any software other than the Adobe suite. And so when this happened, I was like, God damn it, now I need to learn Blender. And I did. It took me like 1 week. In 1 week, I could do stuff, I could already 1 week, I was already I think making some short YouTube tutorials. And
Right.
the reason why I made the tutorials is because when you make the tutorials, you learn for yourself. It's a crazy
Exactly.
thing, you know.
Yeah, exactly. When I started making my own tutorials, I was thinking like, wow, there's so much I need to learn. Like I don't know all the answers, but then again, you know something, right? And during the process of making the tutorial, you kind of explore even more, and then you should just share your knowledge. And I've seen like people doing tutorials also just not to forget some kind of technique that they taught to
I do
themselves,
that
and
too.
yeah, just
Yeah.
like a memory, a backup of your learning process, right? Uh, so no, that question maybe is irrelevant, as you said. I wanted to ask about Cinema 4D, whether you use it, but if you don't have the license, probably not. So maybe other things that annoy you in Blender, like something that's missing
Uh,
or working not the way that you expect.
as far as I'm concerned, everything that I use it for works great. Um, I would like to see, but you see, we're really nitpicking. I would like to see a little bit more of a like mograph solutions. Like this is the only thing that I really miss from Cinema 4D. To have the ability to use cloners and all that kind of stuff. Now with the node editor, this is sort of like being brought in,
Yeah, exactly. That's what I
but
wanted to ask about the geometry nodes. Have you ever like dabbled in that area, or not yet, or just like watching?
I
Because
started to do a couple of tutorials. I did some animations, if you go and see on my Instagram page, which are actually cool. But the thing is that the mograph and the module on Cinema 4D is just perfect. This is something that, like they should license it. I'd be willing to pay $20 a month just to use the mograph, like on Blender.
Mhm.
If there was sort of like a standalone version that could somehow translate geometry into Blender, I would be happy to pay money for that, because mograph is a lot of fun, I have to say.
Yeah, I guess this this is just like thing developing, so probably something quite alike, or maybe it's something totally different will emerge. Like from what I've seen, like when the first version of the geometry nodes came out, it was like everyone was kind of excited about this is promising, but just like two releases after the first one, it already is like super broad and powerful. Like I don't know if you've seen things done by Blender SE, like the on Twitter, it's his name, right? Blender SE. He's doing like generators of whole villages. Like you can generate a
Yeah,
village
yeah, I think I saw
and
that, yes.
yeah, different and bunch of other things that he's doing. Like I've seen him do like a pigeon generator, um, power line generator, like everything that's created just procedurally. And I can imagine, if it's possible right now, like in a few years, it will be like super powerful. When it's developed at this pace.
The Blender people should release sort of like better documentation and maybe some tutorials, where they really cover everything, because it is complex, I have to say.
Yeah. I guess the whole this whole development is kind of like it's done in the open, and it's a little bit like sometimes it's a little bit chaotic maybe, and more developer oriented than the user oriented sometimes, in especially in these kind of
Which is
parts.
like the old Blender.
Yeah, and it's trying. They are always trying to invent things like from scratch. I guess this is the approach, which has sometimes its drawbacks, like that Blender is not like the industry standard, because they are trying to kind of like reinvent the wheel sometimes. But it also has some pretty heavy advantages, because they can really sometimes propose better solutions than the industry standard. Because industry standard sometimes it's not like the best possible solution. It's this solution that just came out at the time when it was needed, and then it matured. But it's sometimes we kind of repeat and to get used to things that are not done in the perfect way as well. So I guess this kind of like revolutionary approach sometimes might be also beneficial. Well, and in some cases it's just annoying, right? Probably. So I guess I want to ask about an area of Blender that you haven't yet touched. Like you mentioned sculpting, maybe like for whatever reason, but you always wanted to touch something. I don't know, scripting, whatever. There are
I've
so many.
actually done sculpting. Sculpting, it's okay for me. Like I would like to spend more time sculpting. I guess that's what I was trying to say. What I haven't touched, which I think it's amazing, and I see people doing crazy things with it. It's the whole grease pencil and 2D animation stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
That's
the, but this is like it seems to me so far away from everything that I do that I'm like, do I really want to go that way? I also suck at drawing. Like my drawings, they look like terrible, and I don't know. Like, but it's great to know that there is the actual possibility. I mean, it's crazy, This is one
yeah,
platform. You got a video editor inside. You got 2D. You got everything. You got a compositor. You got everything. It's an
yeah.
amazing software.
Exactly. That's grease pencil is kind of like one thing that I found when it came out, the way it came out, because at first it was just like an annotation tool, nothing more. But someone just had the idea of turning it into a full-fledged, 2D animation, and also being able to combine it with 3D. It's like super powerful, and it was like the first super innovative thing in Blender. Like it wasn't like Blender catching up on other software. It was like something that the other software didn't have. Right? It was the first
Yeah.
thing that really was stepping up, and it still is. I think, and I've seen people doing stuff, and I've also wanted to dabble in it. They are developing, I think, like ways of converting 3D meshes into grease pencil. Like there are ways to skip the drawing part a little bit, and it's super powerful. I've seen like animations doing this mix of 3D, traditional 3D, with like overlays in 2D, like with FX, like fire, whatever additional things, and mixing these two, and like the things that Jama Jurabaev did, like using grease
Hmm.
pencil for concepting and then turning into meshes, like super crazy powerful things that are possible with that.
It is. It's out of this world, and I still can't believe that it's free.
That's even greater. Yeah, so I guess we can just encourage all the audience to try Blender, whether you're using anything else. Like you don't need to limit, even if you're paying the subscriptions for expensive software. It's always good to have something, something on the side, because it's a tool for really for everyone, right? So maybe let's turn back a little bit to the NFTs, and I wanted to invite the audience to take a look at your NFTs. Where can they find you? And did you start offering your artworks on the open markets or curated galleries? Where people can find your art?
So I did quite a few drops with curated galleries. One of them it's Brighthole. The other one is the Meta Art Club, which is a curated selection of artists. But as of now, I don't really have any more art for sale. There is one piece which is called Love Forever, which I made for St. Valentine's because a company reached out to me and said, "Oh, we want to do a drop with you." And then the company backed out at the last minute. It's okay. But then I decided to donate that artwork for the cause in Ukraine. I've also donated other artworks for the cause in Ukraine. There are some curators that are now trying to sell the art to send the money to Ukraine. And I think this is a great initiative, of course, because of what is happening. Um, but yeah, for now I'm not planning to do any more NFT art. I really don't want to lose focus on the brand that I'm building, my own consulting design company for the metaverse. There are a lot of exciting projects that are coming in, other projects that are ongoing, which I think are going to shape the way we interact with the metaverse in the future. And this brings me joy. So, that's it.
All right. So I guess if any of our listeners or people watching on YouTube want to check out, they should just Google Fabio Palvelli, right? And they can find your social media.
There is way too much information about me out there.
Yeah. So Fabio Palvelli as an NFT, somehow, it's like you're out in the open.
I'll sell myself as an NFT.
Yeah, transferred to Web3. Okay, so thank you again for accepting the invitation. It was a great conversation, and I hope also our audience will enjoy it. And
I really hope so. And just one thing that I always have started to say it to people. I get invited to a lot of these conversations, and it's okay. We want to hear the opinion of different people. But if at any point you find that what I shared with you, it's not motivational enough, or it makes you change your idea about any of the plans that you might have, fuck me, you don't have to listen to me. Just go and do your thing. You're probably onto something. This is the actual definition of innovation. You cannot talk about innovation happens tomorrow, and so you might be onto the next innovation. Do your thing and don't be afraid to fail. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, like thanks for that quote, like inspirational.
Sorry, I swore on your channel. Is your channel
I guess we're
Christian friendly?
I guess we can beep it out in the post pro or something. Anyway, that quote that you don't talk about innovation, it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite movies, the Fight Club, right? It's the first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. So it's like innovation is like a fight club. You have to fight. If it's your first night in innovation, you have to fight. Okay. So thanks again, Fabio, and I hope we will see you in some bright future in the metaverse.
DJ, thanks a lot for the invitation. I really hope that your listeners got any sort of value out of this.
Surely. So thanks again, and bye.